Take a close look at this person standing right next to an artillery shell. This single shell gives you a sense of scale for the gigantic artillery gun it was built for, created during World War II under Adolf Hitler's orders. The Nazi regime constructed two of these terrifying machines. The first one was named Schwerer Gustav, which translates to Heavy Gustav, while the second twin monster was named Dora. Moving this weapon took 4 full trains, while assembling it on site required an army of 4,000 workers. Fully built, it stretched 47.3 meters long, nearly half a football field. Its massive 32.5-meter barrel boasted an 800-millimeter caliber, making it the largest rifled weapon ever used in combat. To handle its 1,350-ton weight, engineers laid custom double-parallel railway tracks, supporting the chassis on 80 wheels. It fired enormous 3.6-meter shells, weighing 7,100 kilograms each, hitting targets with terrifying force up to 48 kilometers away. Which leaves us with one final mystery. Why on earth did Hitler feel the need to construct an artillery gun this ridiculously huge in the first place? The main reason Hitler ordered the creation of this giant weapon comes down to a massive defensive wall known as the Maginot Line. France had constructed an ultra-fortified border along Germany, packed with underground concrete forts and heavy steel armor designed to stop any German invasion in its tracks. To smash through this obstacle, the German High Command set a brutal challenge for its engineers. They needed a weapon capable of piercing through 7 meters of reinforced concrete and 1 meter of solid steel armor plates, all from a safe distance outside the enemy's range. After running the calculations, the arms manufacturer Krupp realized that no standard artillery piece on Earth could break through armor that thick. Their solution was to design a colossal 1,350-ton railway gun, firing 7-ton armor-piercing shells, creating the largest caliber weapon ever used in combat. Under Adolf Hitler's orders, German arms manufacturer Krupp built the largest artillery pieces in history, Schwerer Gustav, meaning Heavy Gustav, and its twin gun, Dora. Between 1936 and 1937, engineers faced a massive transport dilemma. Standard railway tracks and bridges would collapse under the gun's weight. Krupp solved this by splitting the custom chassis across 2 parallel railway tracks, distributing the load across 4 specialized bogies, totaling 80 wheels. Next came the metallurgical nightmare between 1939 and 1940. Forging a 32.5-meter barrel to withstand tens of thousands of psi of explosive pressure proved nearly impossible with standard steel casting. Krupp had to engineer a multi-layered jacketed barrel using high-tensile alloy steel with a removable inner liner that replaced after every 50 shots. With an 800-millimeter caliber, it fired 7-ton armor-piercing shells measuring 3.6 meters long, hitting targets with devastating force up to 48 kilometers away. To absorb the millions of pounds of recoil, giant hydropneumatic buffers caught the backward blast. Loading was fully mechanized. An overhead electric crane lifted the 7-ton shells, and a hydraulic rammer shoved them into the breech. Since the gun could not swivel on its carriage, 2 690-horsepower diesel locomotives aimed it by pushing the entire 1,350-ton assembly along a specially built curved railway track. Here lies the ultimate irony of military history. Development of the Gustav took so long that by the time the gun was assembled and tested, the battle it was built for was already over. Germany bypassed the Maginot Line entirely in 1940, sweeping through Belgium and forcing France to surrender in weeks. The world's largest gun was suddenly a massive monster without a target. For nearly 2 years, this multi-million Reichsmark Titan sat idle. That was until June 1942, when Nazi command finally found a target big enough to justify its existence: the Siege of Sevastopol on the Eastern Front. At Sevastopol, the Soviets had built some of the most formidable underground fortifications in human history, buried deep under solid rock and sea cliffs. Schwerer Gustav was deployed to the Crimean Peninsula, but getting it into position was a war effort all on its own. Over 13 days of relentless bombardment, the crew fired a total of 48 heavy armor-piercing shells. The reality behind operating Schwerer Gustav was an absolute nightmare. To move this giant, Germany had to dedicate 25 full trains just to carry its disassembled parts, its crew, its security, and specialized double-track railway lines. 4,000 troops were tied down just to operate a single gun. This included hundreds of specialized rail engineers and assembly crews. 4 weeks were required just to assemble the weapon on site before a single shot could be fired. And to protect this massive target from Allied airstrikes, 2 full anti-aircraft regiments were permanently assigned to guard it. By the time Gustav was put together and ready to fire, battlefield conditions had often already shifted miles away. If the logistics weren't bad enough, the gun literally destroyed itself every time it was used. The friction and intense heat generated by firing a 7-ton shell at supersonic speeds meant the steel barrel suffered catastrophic wear. After firing just 48 rounds at Sevastopol, the barrel liner was completely ruined. The gun was rendered useless. To fix it, the inner barrel had to be dismantled, packed onto trains, and shipped over 1,000 miles back to the Krupp factories in Germany for a multi-week replacement process. Germany had built a second gun of the same design, named Dora, and briefly deployed both towards Stalingrad and Leningrad, but neither saw meaningful action before tactical retreats were ordered. Ultimately, weapons like Schwerer Gustav and Dora were obsolete before they were even built. The future of siege warfare wasn't massive steel railway guns, it was the airplane. Heavy bomber aircraft could deliver far greater explosive payloads anywhere on the continent in a matter of hours rather than weeks. They bypassed double tracks, required a fraction of the steel, cost a tiny percentage of the money, and consumed far less precious manpower. In April 1945, with Allied forces closing in, German troops blew up both Schwerer Gustav and Dora to prevent their capture. They ended their lives not as legendary weapons of victory, but as twisted piles of scrap metal in a forest. A dramatic, expensive monument to military hubris.